This was a night for revenge, as well as a lot of desperate booking attempts to keep this almost dead brand alive just a little bit longer, which would only end up being another 5 weeks. I'm John Rentham with the Retro Review of WCW Superbrawl Revenge 2001, the second to last pay-per-view in WCW's history, and I will always wonder if WCW could have kept going on. We'll never know. Thanks, Jamie Kellner, you dumb son of a bitch, pulling WCW programming off of Turner Networks. Granted, it may have not lasted that long under Bischoff's group. We'll never fucking know. We did get NWA TNA out of that. Granted, Jarrett brought Russo in to do the booking during some periods of that, which was really fucking bad. But they had a lot of young talents and some veterans that still had a lot left, and the company's still going today in some form or another. So it's kind of interesting that it managed to outlast WCW's tenure under Turner Broadcasting. But anyway, that's another story for another day. This show had its moments, good and bad, and then also some really bad. But some moments where you saw glimmers of hope of what this company could have been had they hit the reset button, I don't know, about 2 years sooner. So, Shivani and Scott Hudson calling the action, and we find out from them that Kidman was taken out by Road Warrior Animal, and we find out who asked Animal to take Kidman out a little bit later. So, Helms takes his place, and is Evan Courageous, Jamie Noble, Kaz Hayashi, Shannon Moore, Yang, and Shane Helms in a 6-way elimination match to determine who would face Chavo Guerrero at the next pay-per-view. Okay, cool. This sounds like a good idea. An elimination match. It was given 17.5 minutes. Okay, you could get some cool shit. You got a bit of cool shit, and you got a lot of really awkward stuff, because I don't know what the fuck was going on here. It was a car crash. There were dives aplenty. Evan missed a goddamn dive, because Evan Courageous looked great, and that was fucking it. It got really messy. I mean, really fucking messy. Yang was missing a lot. And Jimmy Yang, really good talent. He really is. But I don't know what the fuck was going on here. The timing was off. He was missing a ton of shit. He eventually pins Courageous. But the crowd was just like, what the fuck is going on here? By the way, they were in the Nashville Municipal Auditorium, which had like 4,300 some odd people. To give you an idea of the capacity of that venue, it's about twice that. They couldn't even fill up a venue in Nashville during the dying days of WCW. And I like Nashville, don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying, you would think a passionate fan base like that would be like, okay, hey, there may be some comp tickets, but let's go see what these guys can do. Nope, they couldn't even, get over half full. That's really fucking sad. So, yeah, all the fucking, they finally get to the pinfalls like about 10.5 minutes into the match. After Yang pins Courageous and Noble pins Yang, Moore pins Noble, Helms pins Moore, and then Vertebraker pins Kaz. So Helms gets his shot after he wasn't even supposed to be in this match. Okay, fine storytelling. And then we get footage of Rick and Animal talking. Chavo says, hey, even though we didn't hear audio, hey, go take Kidman out. Why the fuck not? What else are you doing here? Animal had the weirdest return, besides Glacier. He had the weirdest goddamn return. I don't know what the fuck is going on. We then get Hugh Morris talking about the Wall having hate in his heart, and then Rick to Scott, it's like the future is in your hand, and we get to find out a little bit later what's in this envelope that Ric Flair talks about. Storm to Brian Clark, you get to see our company doctor first before you get medically cleared, and says, Adams, you go over there, go do something. Brian Adams, go write another bad song. Wait, no, just because Storm's Canadian, he should have known that wasn't the Brian Adams. And then we get Hugh Morris versus The Wall. This was not a good match, because you wouldn't expect it to be a very good match. The Wall was never particularly good if you put him in singles matches that didn't have weapons in them to hide the fact that he really wasn't that great of a wrestler. And Hugh Morris was at the end of his career here. We get steps to the head, and it was very, very bad. Wall landed badly, during a lot of these spots. We had lots of laying around, and then no laughing matter, 1, 2, 3. And then Animal and Conan are brawling backstage because Animal had taken out Kidman, and that's a member of the Filthy Animals. Whatever the fuck he goddamn said. I don't think Conan really knew what he was saying at this point. He was just collecting a paycheck, and I don't blame him. Everybody was collecting a goddamn paycheck there. But Conan versus Road Warrior Animal in 2001, no thanks. So, O'Hare and Palumbo versus Jindrak and Stasiak. The Thrillers explode. By the way, this is for the WCW tag titles, and the crowd did not seem to care. It's not that the effort was not there from the talents, but it wasn't that good because nobody really cared. Nobody had a reason to be invested. The Natural Born Thrillers were what they were, just kind of there. Sean Tom Bomb pins Stasiak to retain, and then Dustin says he will take the U.S. Championship tonight from Rick Steiner. We then get Chavo Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio in a Cruiserweight Championship match. Best match on the show, easily, 100%. These guys tore it up. We got a stiff drop kick out of the air. Chavo got a fan's, Ray mask, and then put it on Ray, and then Ray put it on Chavo. We did a little mask comedy. And then we got a Frankensteiner for 2. We got a chair in the corner, a chair in the spotlight, losing its religion. Head scissors outside Chavo. Use a chair while the ref was distracted. Brainbuster, 1, 2, 3. Not that bad. The best match on the show, easily. There was some good action on this show, but it's just you had dodgy finishes, or a lot of people that were just laying around collecting a paycheck. Like, yeah, sure, you shouldn't, beat your body up to the point where you don't walk the next day after a pay-per-view, but it didn't seem like a lot of them really cared by this point. But then again, I mean, why would you when this company had no momentum? Rick versus Dustin for the U.S. title in 2001. Well, Rick dropped the title during his entrance, which proved just how little anybody cared about the U.S. Championship. Starts with a brawl and basically stays at. We then get some rest holds later to, let everybody catch their goddamn breath. And also the fact Rick Steiner at this point only had a couple more years left of his full-time career. They can match stiff for stiff. Scott Hudson on this match. That pretty much, summarizes how everybody felt, just making dirty jokes out of commentary because there wasn't much else by this point. Ref stops the chair usage. We get a buckle exposed. Dustin gets dropped on it for 3. Dustin attacks afterwards. And then does the Shattered Dreams, the football kick in the corner. And, okay, cool, whatever. Rick tells Storm that, whatever, he expects him to beat Miller tonight, and that Miller will be escorted from the building after he loses, but you got to beat him. Totally Buff then cuts a promo. Well, tries to. Then they face off against Brian Adams, but Brian Clark joins and gets laid out immediately. But then Clark is suddenly showing up, and what the hell is going on here? Because his shirt's torn. He shows up on the stage. Oh no, it's Mike Awesome dressed as Brian Clark, and then we get Blockbuster for 3. This wasn't good because Totally Buff really wasn't a good team. We then get Miller versus Storm, commissionership on the line. First they cut promos. It's really about all they could have done here, and it probably would have been better than the match. And Storm really was a bright spot in the last year of WCW. Miller finally won me over when, after a bit, once he stopped maybe being a heel commentator. He was fine as a heel wrestler, but as the commissioner, he kind of just got a little bit annoying. When he did commentary, he was fine when he was a heel commissioner. And when he was a face, the crowd seemed to be more behind him. We get some cord choking, no DQ. Why the fuck would you call it DQ? Storm targets previously injured knee. That was a question. Could Ernest Miller overcome the knee injury he had suffered? Mike Sanders comes down because we can't get away from having Mike Sanders on pay-per-view. Gets knocked down by Mrs. Jones, or Miss Jones, and then Feeliner 1, 2, 3. Miller is a new commissioner at midnight, but he gets escorted out of the building, that is, because he does not have power yet. And that leads to a whole bunch of shenanigans a little bit later. Jarrett comes out and says, hey, DDP, you beat up Canyon, so I bet you face him first before you face me. So he does. And why even do countouts or DQs? Because they were outside the ring for a goddamn 50 count, and there was a step spot that busted DDP over open on the side of his head. That was really goddamn brutal. Canyon really underappreciated. I really feel bad for Canyon. He was a very, very good wrestler. It's a damn shame how his life ended. Should have been accepted for who he is, and we know why. He got the shit beat out of him in a random 2003 return on SmackDown. Thanks, Undertaker. And, you idiot. So, we get a low blow. Canyon cutter for 2. Jarrett then comes down. After we get a ref bump, he hits a stroke, and then Canyon covers for 3. And, yeah, he hit a flatliner also, but, what the fuck's the matter? Because by this point, we're just going to overbook everything. Now, I get it. This should have been beneficial to Canyon, but he had such a random return, and yeah, they revisited the whole thing of him feuding with DDP, but it's just, oh, he's aligned with Jarrett. Jarrett was a goddamn albatross. He just didn't, whatever he was, either albatross, anchor, whatever the fuck you want to call it, he just drug everything down when he was involved. He was a great mid-card guy. That was it. He was never a good main event guy. DDP versus Jarrett. So they go into the crowd, and naturally we're getting, rest holds after that because DDP just had a pretty intense match. And then Canyon gets back in. Shivani says, would someone please take a baseball bat and knock that maniac out? Bit harsh, but you know what? I think Schiavone had fucking had by this point. Chair to DDP's head. Oh no, it's just for 2. And then guitar to Canyon because DDP moved out of the way. Diamond Cutter, 1, 2, 3. So he loses to Canyon, and then he beats a fresh Jeff Jarrett. Fresh Jarrett, if you will. Yeah, I mean, whatever. Why the fuck not? So here's Flair out to join commentary, and they were losing money left, right, and center, but they still brought Michael Buffer in. I will never fucking understand that. They replayed the Sid leg injury just to drive home the fact that that was really fucking gross. Really, really fucking gross. Nash isn't here, so hey, count out. I want to be declared the winner. And the Wolfpack theme hits. Nash is pushed down by 2 porn nurses. They really look like porn stars dressed as nurses. They really did. And he's in a wheelchair. Oh, but it was a ruse. He didn't tear his quad getting out of the wheelchair. Bonuses. Or bonus points there. And then he gets in. And Rick's all freaking out what the hell's going on. It's supposed to be Nash versus Steiner. And just a standard championship match. Okay. So before the match even starts, he hits Scott Steiner with the world title. And then they ring the bell. He covers him. 1, 2, 3. So he wins in 17 seconds. And then Flair's like, no, no, no. It's 2 out, 3 falls. No DQ. They're doing this whole thing. It's kind of like what they did over the Edge 98 with Austin and Dude Love, you know. And you had Pat Patterson probably, and clearly not targeting any ring boys, but also saying, oh, this is no DQs, falls count anywhere, all this stuff and everything. They just kept making up the rules as they went along. Here's the problem. WWE was hot at that point. WCW was just desperate and pissing off fans. It's one thing to have a heel group, but they'd seen heel groups be dominant. They didn't want to see it again. Mainly because even though Scott Steiner should have had a long championship run, by this point he was so beat up. He was barely mobile. I mean, take a look at what he did later in his career. Take a look at what he did even in 2000. He tried, but he couldn't really do anything. He could throw suplexes, and it took him forever to get off the mat because he was blown up with a goddamn garden hose, and we know why. But anyway, DDP is coming from the back. Totally buffed them, stuffs him in a box. What's in the box? It's DDP. Second fall. Scott hits him with a pipe. DDP, still stuffed in that box, by the way. Scott was busted open. Nash got busted open. And then he gets pinned outside because falls count anywhere, according to Flair. And then both are bleeding. We get a jackknife. We get a brawl, then we get a jackknife. Madeja comes in. She gets laid out with a side slam, landing on her back, which, the jokes are there, and that's all I'm going to say. And then Rick attacks the ref. And then we get Nux to the head. And then we get the Steiner recliner. And then Nash is knocked out. And his career's done, by the way. This is a career on the line match. They just kept making up rules as they went along. That was really it. There was not a lot to Superbrawl Revenge, which is a real shame. Because there were some good moments. But when you take the totality of it, they were trying to set things up for, maybe some people to come back. And, the young guys to take down Ric Flair's group. Being the New Blood Millionaires Club storyline. Only done right, because Russo was out of the goddamn picture. But within a few weeks, that whole thing would be dropped, because by greed, it was obvious that Bischoff's group was not going to be able to buy the company. And then, that was pretty much it right there. So, yeah, Superbrawl Revenge in the books, and it kind of went out with a goddamn whimper. Nash's career is done, and he still got paid for about, 2 years? He got paid for 2 more years to just sit at home, I think, for $2.65 million a year. I don't blame Nash for staying in WCW as long as he did. Because goddamn, he got a lot of money. Anyway, agree, disagree with what I said? Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Retlin. I'll see you soon.